Hello, and welcome to the Iron Maiden. Today I'm very excited to talk about Silver Age, the new Flesh and Blood format. More about what Silver Age is in a second, but I just wanted to introduce my love of budget formats. If you watch this channel, you already know I love Vynnset, I love Shadow, I quite like Runeblade as well, but I really love budget formats. I used to play Magic the Gathering, and in that game I used to love Pauper and Pauper Commander. So I'm a massive fan of this new format, and I'm likely to make content for it in the future. Vynnset content, maybe some other heroes as well as we figure it out. So look forward to that, and if you're a fan of Silver Age, let me know in the comments that you'd like to see more. Maybe even let me know which things you'd like to see more of. So what is Silver Age? We're abbreviating it to Sage, as per LSS's instructions. It's the new Flesh and Blood format in which you play with young heroes, so that's the half-life heroes that mostly start on 20 life. You can only play common, rare, and basic cards in your deck, and your equipment. So we know what commons and rares are. Basic cards are cards that you can use in draft, so the weapons and the heroes are basic cards. So basically anything you could use in a draft, as well as commons and rares, that's what you get to play with. This means that you can't play Majestics or Legendaries, of course. This format you may have heard of. It was used to be called Project Blue, back when it was in development, and people have been talking about it ever since it got sort of spread. So as you can see the rules, 1 young hero card and 55 cards. So the hero does not count to the 55, just like it doesn't in Classic Constructed. Common, rare, and basics. You start with 40 cards in your deck. So you have a sideboard, of course, but you can only put in 40. You can't go over 40 in the main. Up to 2 copies, so same as Blitz, and you get 35 minutes per round, best of 1. So it's like Blitz, but small, or like Commoner, but big. It has a large ban list, and this is really important for how the format functions. Without this ban list, the format would be full of really defensive decks. There's too many excellent defensive pieces. And the only decks that would conquer those would be massively aggressive or really powerful combo style decks. So I believe that this format would be a extreme format without these bans, so I'm pretty happy with them. And it feels like it brought the power level down, especially on the defensive, as well as down in the aggressive areas and the value areas. So that's the bans you can see. Let's point out the Vynnset bans. See, the ones that are notable for Vynnset are the 4 blocks, so that's Fate and Sync. They're gone. This is positive for Vynnset because it means that people are less defensive in some ways, or less capable of being defensive. But it's also negative because without some access to other defensive cards that Vynnset would normally play, Vynnset really wants to play those cards. Especially Sink Below is quite good. And it also means that decks will have more blue block 3s instead of 4 blocks, would be my guess. Aether Ironweave and Rosetta Thorn are really powerful Vynnset options at this rarity level, and they're gone as well. So that's okay with me. Although those are very powerful, they are not the style of Vynnset I want to play, so that is fine by me. Old Knocker is gone, and that would have been the best chest piece for Vynnset, as well as lots of other heroes, which is why it's gone. And Dirge is dead. This is the one that was originally on the Project Blue ban list, and I really wanted to see come off the ban list, but no, Deadwood Dirge is still banned, which means that for both Vynnset and Chain, as well as some other Runeblades like Viscerai, we have to go without one of our favourite cards, unfortunately. So here's the challenges of the format. Like I said, there's an aggressive side and a defensive side. With so many heroes in the format, with nothing banned, nothing LL'd, you have to consider lots of types of aggro deck and how to beat them. So you can see Briar, a very traditional breakpoint aggro deck that usually plays lots of 4s. Kano, a arcane-based aggro-y deck that will use big attacks and arcane damage to try and chip you down and then kill you. Or Dash, which is also a breakpoint deck, but it manipulates action points and has complex setup as well. So there's a few different types of aggro decks that I think could be good in the format. And then the defensive decks, that's where Vynnset's really going to struggle. Oldhim and Victor are extremely defensive. Both of them get massive value on defense. And there's also warriors or defensive brutes, such as Dorinthia as a warrior. These decks lock really well, like they do in CC. There is some bright side here that they start on 20 life, and Vynnset can do more than 20 damage. But setting it up will be the hard part, not getting punished for the setup. So what do we lose? If you're a Vynnset CC player, if you've been following this channel, it seems pretty likely. Here's some cards that you might miss. You lose the really powerful equipment, so Spellbound Creepers is an excellent example of a card that you can replace in some sense, but nothing really does what it does. Your Vexing gets replaced with a slightly worse version. Your Face Purgatory gets replaced with a very worse block equipment. And your Tunic or your Chest Piece gets replaced with other block or one resource types of equipment. So not as good, but of course everyone loses some equipment. We lose Binstance in total. No Cull, Funeral Moon, Requiem, which also means there's no silly action point stuff. You can't make action points afterwards. You don't have Creepers, you don't have Succumb, and you don't have Binstance. We also lose some of the Rune Gates, so Eloquent Eulogy, the Widespread cycle. We lose those, which is unfortunate. Some of those are really important, Eloquent Eulogy being a really important save option where you can draw it late game and it'll get you out of a sticky situation. And we lose a lot of the best anti-fatigue tools, so like Revel in Runeblood up there, Sonata to go get all of your Malefics, and things like Oblivion. Can't play Oblivion either. But there are lots of things that Vynnset gets to keep, and some things that she even gains. So when we look at things that Vynnset gets to keep, Deathly Wail is by far the most important. Deathly Wail being the all-star of a Vynnset deck in lots of matchups. It helps you beat fatigue, it helps you beat aggro, helps you beat somewhere in the middle. So that is a massive gain from Commoner not having that to Project Blue, or sorry, Silver Age. Getting that is massive. We also get Malefic Incantation, so for that one we will of course be using that the same way we do in CC. You can set up with it, you can pay off consistency with it. You can't search it with Sonata, unfortunately. Morvrian Skies and other Go Again cards. So we get to keep some of the Go Agains, obviously not the majestic ones like Shadow Puppetry or Machinations, but you get to keep things like Morvrian Skies, which is better because it has less competition, and there's some other ones that I'll show you in a second. And we get to keep some of the really good defense reactions, like Reduced to Runechant being a 1-card 5. If you get the reduction and the Runechant, sometimes you can count it as 1-card 6. So we get some of that powerful stuff. Before I tell you to like, comment, and subscribe, I want to show you the decks I have been brewing. So as you can see, I've got a lot of Sage decks going on, but let's go into the Vynnset one. So here's what I have been playing on Talishar. I've got maybe 15 games in so far. It feels okay. I had to do some editing from where I started. So we've got Young Vynnset. Flail is still here as our always playing option. Garland of Spring, same as the other older version. It just destroys for a resource. This lets you play 1-cost cards much easier. And Runehold Release, which is exactly the same as Vexing Quillhand. It's just half as good. And it doesn't have Arcane Barrier. But it makes 1 Runechant, so it's here for the same reasons that you would play Vexing. In the main board, we can see a lot of familiar faces. 6 Deathly Whales, because you can only play 2 of every card, remember. Deathly Delight, Banshee, and Wraith. So these are pretty much all the rune gates we have to work with in this format, which is why I've started dipping into blues. Another reason I've started dipping into blues you'll see soon, but these help us consistently draw rune gates. Without these, we would be not drawing a rune gate in every turn on average. So we really need these blues. And having blues instead of yellows lets you play these rune gates. So you could argue to put yellows here because they just have one more number in the bottom corner. But the blue lets you pitch and play the 3 costs, as well as do some other things like 2 cost, 1 cost. If we look at the other blood deck cards, we've got Banding Demagon still in the deck because it's still pretty okay. Like it is in CC, it's just pretty okay. And we really need more blood debt. Without Binstance and missing the widespreads, it's very difficult to make this deck have enough blood debt that you're not wasting cards. For Rune Chant generation, we've got Envelop in Darkness. So this is a card that doesn't normally make my lists in CC, but it's pretty good here. And Malefic Incantation, not playing the blue, of course. And then we've got Beseech for the +3, pretty simple card to help convert hands. And finally the Go-Agains. Flying High is an excellent replacement for Shadow Puppetry. It does the Go Again and +1 on most of the attacks in the deck, which makes it nearly a Shadow Puppetry. It's obviously missing a line of text and the Shadow keyword, but it has very much impressed me. And Morvrian Sky's Red is also very good. It makes your opponent have to block usually, and if they're silly enough not to, then you get a lot of power. If we look into my sideboard, you'll see something very striking, very fun. It's Pummel. Now, Pummel isn't necessarily good enough in CC, which is why I don't play it anymore, but we used to back when Vynnset came out. If you weren't here on Dusk Till Dawn release, this was the Vynnset tech, the Pummel. But in this deck, we get to use it with the blues. 1 cost with the blue, and then the 2 cost on the Pummel is a very good playline. Another reason Envelop is fine in this deck. And it also gets Morve Skies to hit, which can be game winning. If you make a Pummel hit through Morve Skies, or Morve Skies hit through Pummel, you're going to probably win that game. Then if we look at some of the other, let's go with the buffs next. Putrid Stirrings is not good enough for CC, but is good enough here, definitely. I found that although I didn't start with it in my deck, I needed more blood debt. And I wanted more ways to use my hands when my opponents were going to pass. And Putrid Stirrings ended up being really, really good at that. It also blocks 3, which means it's totally fine in a lot of matchups. Then we've got Read the Runes. This makes 3 Rune Chants, another card that I don't typically play in CC, but it's good for stacking. Because Silver Age games are 20 life, they end up being quite short, usually 3 to 4 turns if they're aggro matchups, and maxing out at about 8 for a really fatiguing deck. So Read the Runes can be a very good going first option. You have a significantly higher chance of drawing it because your deck is smaller, and you have less turns where it kind of wears off. In CC, if you play this on turn 1, you get an excellent start, but it doesn't make a massive difference. If you play this in Silver Age, you get a really strong start, and then you can just win soon after. Reduce to Rune Chant is here because it's excellent. We play this in CC, you know why. Sigil of Suffering is the other D-React I've chosen. Getting 4 value out of your D-React in Silver Age is good, which is why the Sink Below and Fate for Scenes of the world have been banned. Sigil of Suffering, like Read the Runes, Reduce to Rune Chant, is 5 value if the conditions are met. So into a lot of aggro decks, especially the redlinier ones, you can play Sigil of Suffering and get a 5 value D-React, 4 block, 1 arcane. It's incredible. So definitely think that's worth putting into this deck. It's a card that's not good enough in CC unless the meta is very particular. Runeblood Incantation, this basically always goes in the deck. This is the number 1 card I would use my Garland of Spring on, and that's because it sets up future turns for 3 turns, which is nearly the entire game. I think that using it on Envelop is okay, but using it for Runeblood Incantation is much better. Additional Go Again cards, we've got Tear Through the Portal, which is fine. Getting this on a red Deathly Whale is really the goal. Getting it on something else is fine. We need more Go Again options. So having a Go Again option that's also Shadow means it's better than the other morphs, in my opinion. But I don't love the card. And 1 Time Snap Potion, because like I said, there are some very powerful defensive decks in this format. Oldhim and Victor especially. So this is a very good tech piece into those, and the game goes so short that 1 Time Snap triple gate turn can probably just win you the game. For sideboard equipment, we have 2 hand options: Arcane Lantern in offhand, or in most matchups, Scepter of Pain. Scepter of Pain is a card that's been banned in CC for a while, thanks to Florian ruining it for the rest of us, but in Silver Age, since there's no amp in Runeblade, we get to keep it. So it's an excellent way to filter hands, and if you have those spare resources from a blue, it's usually better than flailing. So if you have a requirement to lose life, if you have a Deathly Whale currently attacking, you're going to want to flail to lose life. But if you don't, and you have resources anyway, Scepter is really good. People really don't like to pitch to block, and it gets around armor, most armor in the game. Speaking of armor, we have 2 leg pieces, or 3 leg pieces, my bad. Bladebeck in the Boots gives 2 block value as long as your opponent's playing a weapon, so you're going to play this against aggressive decks. Nullroom Boots gives you Arcane Barrier, so we obviously need that at some point, so we're going to play that instead when we're playing against arcane decks. And Sutcliffe Suede Hide is your Creepers replacement. So you can see Creepers is getting split into 2 cards here, the defense and the aggressive value. But Sutcliffe's is a very good free Go Again, and it lets you triple or double gate way more consistently, so that's why it's in here. As for headpieces, we've got 2. Bladebeck, and then usually this is your Face Purgatory replacement because it blocks 2 if your opponent has a weapon, which makes it pretty good. And Ebonfold, if your opponent is going to do arcane, not like most of CC wizards, for example. So think of Vynnset. Vynnset doesn't do a lot of arcane in this format, it seems. I would actually recommend playing Ebonfold for the second piece of the card, which is the banish, draw a card version. So if your opponent's going to do arcane, like a Kano or an Acilio, that would be your spell void options. And if you needed it to get a power play, it's kind of like a painful passage. It puts extra cards into banish, so that makes it pretty good. And then we've got our Brutchamp. So you can see pretty standard Vynnset deck, looks a lot like a CC deck except smaller, with some other options based on what we can and can't play. I wanted to give a brief overview of some spare cards that I was playing with or thinking about. Ironweave's here. This is actually banned, but February doesn't have that, so we can ignore. Bloodied Oval gives 1 value to your offhand slot, but I think Scepter is more valuable in so many matchups, and Bloodied Oval taking up another sideboard slot is a lot of armor. We already have so much armor and having Bloodied Oval really eats into your ability to sideboard properly. So I haven't played it. Bloodtorn Bodice only goes in the deck if you're also going to play Cussing. I don't think either is worth it. Bunkerbeard I've started with as a really excellent Crown of Providence impression, where it can use your arsenal to block in the similar way to how Crown works, but it's not good enough. Vynnset has the problem where if your arsenal attacks, they're not very good, and then I thought Bunkerbeard would help by both getting them out and getting value out of them. But it turns out that this deck can pitch and play attacks pretty consistently, so it's okay to arsenal attacks, really. Crown of Dichotomy, Arcane Barrier, Dance of Darkness, Spell Void, but like I said, too many equipment slots. Nebula Blade is like a big flail, but I like having the two little hands instead of the one big one. Cussing is okay, but not being able to find it on demand with Sonata makes it a lot worse, and it's awkward in too many hands. Same with Blessing. Blood Tribute is probably okay. It is an arsenalable RuneGate card, basically. But it doesn't block, and I'm not confident in its ability to work. Condemned to Slaughter can buff Flail, which is pretty funny, but the steep cost of killing an aura you control makes its second ability not great unless your opponent has a really good aura, and they don't in this format. Dimensional Gateway is a shadow non-attack that can get you extra shadow cards in Banish to play, which makes it kind of interesting, but not very good. Oasis, if one of the wizards like Kano, or more importantly Icelander, I would say, if they're really, really good or really popular, Oasis would come in. Some of the chain cards, these are definitely not good enough, but if you want more blood debt, or if you don't want to play the blues and the pummel package, you're going to have to bring into these. Rift Skitter, considerable, gets go again naturally, but it only attacks for 4. Could be better than a blue, but I like the blue numbers in this deck anyway, so not for now. Envelop Yellow is fine. Morvian Skies Yellow and Blue are also pretty good. I think the other go again we have is better, but if you wanted to go really hard on the go again and just have a go again every turn, you could bring in yellow or blue. They have their merits each. Register Runechant is 4 block, 3 on defense, 1 on offense, which makes it a pretty valuable card, but you would have to be wanting a really defensive Vynnset deck to cut into this. The other blue RuneGate, Deathly Delight, is fine. Energy Potion lets you pummel with 1 card, just the pummel, which makes it pretty funny, but I don't think good enough. Lunging Press lets you hit your Morbs. If you were going to play more Morbs, especially the yellow one, I would probably put in Lunging Press instead of Pummel. Oath of the Arknight is an envelop that blocks 3, but that's not a very good bar, so it's not played. Blue Pummel could see play, but I want the massive upside of the red one, so I wouldn't be replacing it. And the blue is not important enough. Putrid Blue is genuinely a very good blue. I just wanted to keep the attack numbers high, and I was happy with the amount of blues I have. If I'm looking for more blues in this deck, that would probably be my next option. Or more Skies Blue. And Time Snap number 2. For reasons that I said Time Snap number 1. So that's been Vynnset in Silver Age. I'm excited for this format. I've played a little bit already, not enough. I'd love to play more and more. Let me know what your Vynnset Silver Age predictions are. Will she be good? Will she be bad? Will there be a meta? I'm sure there will be. There will be competitive tournaments. And what type of list will you be running? Of course, you can like, comment, and subscribe to the channel. We are at 665 subscribers right now. So if you're watching this video and you subscribe, you could be the 666th subscriber, which would make you my favorite subscriber ever. Just worth considering. There's a Discord link in the description below where you can join all the other Vynnset players in the Iron Maiden Discord. It is a great place to chat and learn about Vynnset. And I'll be at Calling Sydney in, 2 weeks. I'll have these Rune Chant tokens with me with Unpreventable written on them. If you find me, definitely ask me and I'll give you one for free. I made them for the event. And if I don't find enough people who want them at Calling Sydney, then I'll maybe give them out as prizes for viewers. Have a good day and be good.